My 17-year-old daughter spent 3 days cooking for 23 people for my mom's birthday party. My dad texted last minute. We've decided to celebrate at a restaurant. It's adults only. I didn't make a scene. I did this instead. 15 hours later, the door started shaking. It was 10 minutes before people were supposed to start arriving when I got the text. I was standing in the doorway of the kitchen trying not to cry over a beet salad. Not because of the beets, though they do look vaguely like something you'd pull out of a surgery tray, but because my daughter was bouncing around the kitchen like her entire future depended on whether grandma liked her lavender glaze. Maybe it did in her head anyway. Eva had been up since 5 and 12 a.m. That wasn't an exaggeration or a dramatic flare. I heard her alarm go off. She'd already baked, prepped, frosted, stirred, burned one thing, then remade it, and steam cleaned the floor. Once because it was, in her words, giving health inspector energy. The table was set for 23 people, handwritten name cards, fresh flowers, printed menus. The whole room smelled like thyme, butter, and something sugary I couldn't identify. It smelled expensive. Eva had curled her hair. Her apron was clean. She was glowing in that tired, adrenaline-filled way you only see in cooking competition finalists and brides with second thoughts. And then my phone buzzed. Group chat, family thread, the one we usually used for things like Happy Easter and blurry pictures of someone's casserole. It was from my dad. We've decided to celebrate at a restaurant. It's adults only. No punctuation. No apology. Just that. First, I thought I misread it or that it was a joke. Ava had just pulled a tray of sugar-free pear tarts out of the oven for Grandma's diabetic neighbor. She was humming. I stepped out into the hallway like I was going to answer a call. I wasn't. Not yet. I just needed to stop my hands from shaking first. I stared at the message. We've decided. Not I called my dad first. It rang twice. Hey, he said, sounding cheerful. You get the message. You're not coming, I asked. My voice was steady, but only because my body had already entered some kind of survival trance. No, we changed plans. It was just easier this way. We're already here. You're at the restaurant right now? I asked. Yep. Just sat down. The menu looks great. Everyone's here. Pause. Why? Because Ava's been cooking for 3 days. I said. You said we'd host it here. She made enough food for 23 people. She's been up since 5 this morning. He was quiet for a second. Well, tell her not to take it personally. She can freeze the leftovers. Can't she? Got to go. Waiter's here. I stared at the phone. Then I called my mom. She picked up and said hello like nothing was on fire. Did you really just not come? I asked. There was a sigh on the other end. Honey, don't start. We just thought it would be more convenient. And honestly, we didn't want to risk anyone getting sick. She's 17. Jenna, it's sweet. But it's not exactly safe to serve that many people. Food cooked by a child. What if someone got food poisoning? She's not 5. She's taken classes. She built a menu. She sanitized everything. She even made diabetic options. Well, that's nice. She interrupted. But it's not real cooking. Not like at a restaurant. I hung up. I didn't trust myself not to scream. I called my sister next. Not because I expected better, but because part of me hoped maybe, just maybe, she didn't know that maybe she'd been left out of the decision. She hadn't. Oh, Jenna, she said. Don't guilt everyone over this. She's crying. She's dramatic. She's exhausted. She's 17. She needs to learn that not everything is about her. She made food for 23 people, and none of us wanted to be her test subjects. The way she said test subjects made my jaw tighten. Like Ava was some little rat in a homey sea maze. I hung up mid-sentence. I didn't care what she was about to say. I stood there for a second, trying to remember how to breathe. Behind me, Ava was still talking. Do you think the pomegranate glaze is too sweet? I didn't want to overdo it. Also, is the lighting too warm? I wanted everyone to feel like it was a real restaurant, but not like fake fancy. And Mom, she stopped. I turned. My face must have said too much because she stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes flecked down to the phone in my hand. Then she took it. I didn't stop her fast enough. Her thumb opened the group chat. Her eyes scanned. Then she saw the photo. A big long table. Glasses clinking. My sister's kids, who are barely 18, smiling at the camera with plates already full. My mother beaming. My father holding up a wine glass. Ava stared for a second too long. Then she hit call. Grandma, she said. I couldn't hear the other side, but I saw her nodding and then not nodding. Her face crumpled in on itself like someone had stepped on her chest. She didn't wail. She didn't sob. She just let the tears fall slowly, like something inside her had given up, like she was embarrassed even to cry over it. I reached for her, but she stepped back. She put the phone down gently like it was glass. Then she turned toward the cake. It was gorgeous. 3 layers, pepped rosettes. Happy 67th Grandma, written in dark chocolate. She stared at it, said nothing. I stood there useless. And then I thought, no, not this time. Not again. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. But I knew I wasn't going to let them be the ones who defined her moment or ended it. Not without seeing what happened next. I used to think the worst kind of pain was seeing your kid cry. Turns out it's watching them try not to because they don't want to make you feel bad. That night, after everyone else was clinking glasses at a restaurant, I stood in the hallway outside her bedroom holding a plate of untouched roast duck and wondering how the hell we got here. Of course, deep down, I knew exactly how we got here. It started when I was born. And no, I'm not being dramatic. I was the second daughter. 2 years younger, unplanned. My mom never actually said the word mistake. But she didn't have to. She said things like, we thought we were done after your sister. And you were a surprise, but a sweet one, which translated into plain English means, we didn't want another one. But we're making do. My sister was everything they wanted. Graceful, outgoing, blonde. She could spin in a circle and land applause. I could take apart a broken fan and rebuild it to run better. But all that got me was a lecture about not touching man things. She took ballet. I took apart a toaster once and got grounded for destroying appliances. They paid for every dance class, every recital, every gold sequined fever dream. When I asked if I could do a weekend handwork course, leather working I think it was, we don't have money for that. Besides, what would you even do with it? What I did was turn it into a business. Years later, I run a small but successful company that makes custom handmade home goods. My husband works with wood. Together, we make decent money. Nothing fancy. Just solid, honest work. My parents still call it a nice little side thing. Meanwhile, my sister has 2 degrees in literature and dance, and about as much job stability as a sneeze in a wind tunnel. She's lovely, though, still elegant, still adored. And because the universe has a sense of humor, I still help her out, financially from time to time, quietly, without comment, because that's what I do. I pay for the things no one thanks me for: birthdays, travel costs, the occasional broken water heater at my parents' house, all quietly absorbed by the bank of, well, Jenner's doing fine. They treat my money like community property, and my opinions like spam mail. And then came Ava, my daughter, my heart, my karma in the very best form. She's like me, but bolder, niche interests, sure, but 0 apologies. Her hands are always flour dusted or sticky with some sauce she's inventing. She once cried because her holes lacked emotional depth. I have no idea what that means, but I love her for it. Ava wants to be a chef, not likes to cook, wants to be a chef. She reads restaurant reviews the way other kids scroll TikTok. She talks about mise en place like it's a philosophy. She's already planning which culinary school to apply to and whether she wants to specialize in patisserie or savory. She's 17 and just like they did to me. The family keeps trying to smother that fire. Oh, It's cute that she likes to play in the kitchen. You'll grow out of it. She's too sensitive to work in that industry. Maybe she should consider something more academic like her aunt, right? Because crippling debt and no income is what we're aspiring to now. I've watched Ava bite her tongue more times than I can count. Once after a family brunch, she went into the bathroom and stayed there for 20 minutes. I found her later wiping her eyes and blaming it on an onion she chopped 6 hours earlier. So, when she came to me and said, "Mom, I want to cook for Grandma's birthday this year," the whole thing, just me, I was a little stunned, but also proud. She knew how hard that would be, how cruel they could be. She wanted to do it anyway. I asked her 3 times, "Are you sure?" Each time she nodded harder. I want to show them what I can do. And then she did. She made a menu, printed it, organized the kitchen like a military operation, took into account every food allergy, every dietary need, every personal preference. My dad doesn't eat mushrooms. My mom thinks cilantro tastes like soap. Ava adjusted for both. She went shopping with her own money, sourced ingredients, tested everything. She even borrowed a friend's cake turntable so she could practice clean frosting lines. Every night she'd show me her list, check marks beside each completed task, and then ask, "Do you think they'll like it?" I told her yes every time, but I hated that she even had to ask. On the day of the party, she woke up at 5 a.m. again. No exaggeration. I heard the clatter of pans, the soft hum of classical music. She says it helps her concentrate. And the tap of her heels across the tile as she danced from oven to counter and back. She looked exhausted by 4 p.m., but glowing, radiant, like she was doing what she was meant to do. You know the rest. They didn't show up. They went to a restaurant instead. All of them, my parents. My sister, my niece and nephew, even the ones who always show up late with store-bought dip made it. The only people missing were me and my daughter, who had made a 3-tier cake and pipe happy 67th in dark chocolate curls. They didn't just reject the food, they rejected her, and they didn't even bother to lie about it. But here's the part I haven't told you yet. That night, as Ava sat in her room pretending to scroll her phone, I got a text, a payment notification, my business card, the one I sometimes use to cover family costs, had been charged $1,327.90 at a restaurant downtown, the same restaurant they were at, the same number of guests. They used my card to pay for the meal that replaced my daughter's dinner. I stood in the kitchen, still holding her tart crust in one hand, and stared at the charge. First, I left. It was either that or throw a plate. Then, I felt it, the kind of still angry clarity that comes right before a storm. They didn't just erase her, they made me pay for her eraser. And they thought we'd just sit quietly and let them. They thought wrong. I should have been the calm one, the adult. The mother with the soothing voice and the wisdom to say, "It's okay, honey, you did your best." But I was not in that mood. Ava was still in the kitchen, standing stiff in front of the cake. Her hands were clenched at her sides, like she wanted to throw something, but didn't want to ruin her own frosting. I couldn't blame her. That cake was a masterpiece. She'd piped chocolate lace along the bottom and candied edible violets for the top. It looked like something you'd see in a glass case behind velvet rope. She turned to me with red eyes and said, "We should throw it all out." I stared at her. "No, Mom, no. If they won't eat it, someone else will." Like who? I didn't have an answer yet, but my hands were already moving. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling. Ava didn't know it yet, but I was about to set this entire evening on fire. First, I called my husband. He was still at work, which somehow made me even angrier. "I need you home now." He didn't ask questions, just said, "Be there in 20. Then I started calling everyone else, old friends, neighbors, my cousin Sam from my dad's side, who always got left out of things for being too political, which was code for calls out our parents when they're awful, people from our local community group, a woman I'd met twice through a charity bake sale, my dentist's receptionist. I didn't care. I told them the truth. My daughter spent 3 days cooking for her grandmother's birthday. They ditched her. She made 23 meals. I need people who can eat. It wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. And to my surprise, people came fast. By the time my husband pulled into the driveway, the first 2 cars had already parked. One neighbor brought a bottle of wine and an entire extended family who didn't have dinner plans anyway. A woman I barely remembered from a book club 2 years ago showed up with her teenage son and a bouquet of tulle. Peas she grabbed on the way. Word spread faster than I expected. It was like watching a protest materialize dish by dish. Eva was horrified at first. She stood in the hallway whispering, "Oh my God, Mom, what are you doing? I'm salvaging what's left of your dignity and dessert. Help me find more chairs." But I turned to her. "You cooked for 3 days. You made something beautiful. This is in pity." It's defiance that shut her up. But only because her brain was clearly buffering. We shoved together 2 folding tables and started putting out the food. By the time the 3rd wave of guests arrived, Eva had retreated to the kitchen to reheat things and whisper panic to herself over sauce temperature. That's when the journalist showed up. I didn't invite her. Someone else did, a friend of her, friend who was in food media. She walked in with a small camera bag and a huge appetite for drama. "I heard what happened," she said. "Is it okay if I taste a few things?" I looked over at Ava, who was standing frozen by the oven, eyes wide. She looked like someone had just asked her to sing on live TV while holding a stool. I said yes for her and handed the journalist a plate. The journalist didn't just taste things. She photographed them, asked about ingredients, took notes. At one point, she whispered to me, "You know, she's better than some of the professional chefs I've reviewed, right?" I swallowed hard. "Tell her that." Eventually, the crowd settled. All 23 seats were full. Eva peeked from the kitchen like a nervous raccoon and asked, "Should I serve the appetizer?" I said, "No, you should serve your menu." And so she did. The room quieted as the first course went out. Then came the murmurs. "Oh, wow. Is that lavender? This is incredible." By the main course, there was clapping. By dessert, someone stood to make a toast to Eva, to the girl who cooked an entire feast, didn't quit when she was kicked down, and whose food tastes better than anyone we've ever paid to feed us. She got a standing ovation. And then, because the universe apparently has a sense of timing, a second cake appeared. Not hers, a store-bought thing someone brought as backup. But they insisted Ava cut hers. She did. She smiled. Barely. But it was real, and I let myself breathe. But the night wasn't over. At 2 a.m., I was still awake when I got the text. It was a link from the journalist, a feature-length article already live. The birthday that wasn't, how a teen chef cooked for 23 was abandoned and ended up hosting the most memorable dinner of the year. The article didn't just praise Ava's food. It told the story, the full story, how her grandmother's birthday was supposed to be at our house, how Ava cooked everything herself, how the family decided without notice to go to a restaurant instead, and how they used my card to pay for it. They didn't name my parents, but they did name Ava, and they made sure readers knew exactly who had stayed and who had left her behind. I stared at the screen in shock. Then I checked the comments section. It had already started. "She's amazing. Where can I eat her food? Who leaves their own granddaughter like that?" I looked at Ava, who had fallen asleep on the couch, still in her apron, hands curled like she was still holding a spatula. And I knew this wasn't the end of it. Not even close. Because the article was already making waves and some people wouldn't like what it stirred up. There's a special kind of silence that happens right before someone knocks on your door in rage. You don't hear footsteps or a car or shouting, just stillness like the air itself knows to hold its breath. I was washing dishes when it happened. Half the cake was still in the fridge. I was humming something under my breath and letting myself feel the tiniest drop of peace when bang, bang, bang. I dried my hands, peeked out the window, and almost laughed. They really came. My parents were standing on the porch in matching windbreakers, both fuming like unpaid actors in a courtroom show, and standing slightly behind them, arms folded like she'd practiced the pose in a mirror, was my sister. I opened the door because I was tired of hiding, but I didn't invite them in. You need to fix this, my dad snapped. Skipping hello entirely, my mom chimed in with, do you have any idea what you've done to our reputation? My sister didn't say anything yet. She was letting the elders go first. Very old school of her. I blinked. What I've done? They shoved past me before I could stop them. Into my hallway. Into my kitchen. Into my home. Like they still thought they had some kind of authority here. You told the media we abandoned Aver. My mom hissed. I crossed my arms. I didn't tell them anything. A journalist came, tasted the food she made, heard what happened, and wrote about it. Honestly, I think they went easy on you. My dad jabbed a finger toward me. You think this is funny? Everyone at church read it. Our neighbors read it. My golf group won't even reply to my messages. I raised one eyebrow. Devastating. That's when my sister stepped forward. You need to tell them it wasn't true, she said, her voice trembling. With manufactured calm, you need to say it was exaggerated, that it was taken out of context. I stared at her, taken out of context. Did someone hack your thumbs and send that text from the restaurant? Did I imagine the tail $300 charge on my card? Did Ava hallucinate the photos you all posted from the dinner? My mom's voice cracked. She made us look like monsters. No, I said quietly, you did that yourselves. She just cooked. That's when the volume went up. They weren't even talking to me anymore. They were talking at me, round me, through me. She's just a child and she's already learned to weaponize the internet. She humiliated her grandmother for attention. You raised her wrong. She's traumatic. She's ungrateful. And then this one hit me like a slap. My mom turned toward Aver, who had quietly walked into the hallway behind me and said, you should be ashamed of yourself. I didn't remember moving. 1 second, I was in the doorway. The next, I was standing square between them and my daughter. That's when my husband walked in. He didn't even ask what was happening. He just saw their faces, saw Ava's tears, and stepped in like a bouncer. Out, he said. My dad laughed. This is a family matter. No, this is my home. You came here to scream at a 17-year-old girl who made you dinner. You don't get to hurt her twice. Not today. Not ever. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. They stood there for a moment, fuming, rattling, deflating. Then my sister muttered something about legal action and stormed out. My parents followed. Slam. Silence. Aver was still standing behind me, silent, rigid. I went to hug her, but she turned toward the living room window. There were phones pointed at our house. 3. I leaned closer and saw the source, our neighbor from across the street. Jeff standing on his front lawn with a stunned expression. The same Jeff who runs the local Facebook group and live streamed our last neighborhood barbecue. Of course, I gave him a wave that said both hello and I will set your compost bin on fire if you post this. Too late. That evening, a video appeared online titled, The grandparents from that viral Teen Chef story just showed up at her house and screamed at her. Watch what they said. The internet did what the internet does. It lit a match. The comments were brutal. Imagine being the spitter over a cake. They sound like they're auditioning for villains in a Hallmark movie. Who yells at a kid who cooked them dinner? One comment just said, this is why some of us cut off our families. That night, before I blocked my parents, I saw the final round of texts. First, you've ruined us. Then, we'll take legal action if you don't issue a correction. Then, this is elder abuse, right? I didn't reply. I blocked all of them, my parents, my sister, their side of the group chat, and I deleted the card they'd used to pay for that dinner. That particular act of financial betrayal wouldn't happen again later. I posted something simple, not a rant, not a call out, just a sentence. We stand by every word and we're done protecting people who hurt our daughter. I expected backlash. What I got was support. Old friends messaged me. Strangers messaged Eva. A local chef invited her to stage in his kitchen over the summer. Someone from a culinary program she dreamed about said they'd be watching her journey with interest. We didn't celebrate, but we finally exhaled. Fast forward 1 year. Eva got in, not just anywhere, the program she used to whisper about, the one she thought was impossible. She's still in her first year, but she already has clients, people who want her to cook for events, bake for birthdays, cater for small dinners. Some of them even reference the article. Per food blog, it's flying. She posts recipes, photos, videos. She has followers, real ones, people who see her. She's different now. Not louder, not bolder, just steadier. She never reached out to my parents again. Neither did I. We heard they moved some town to ours away. Too many people had stopped inviting them to things. Too many friends suddenly had plans. They told someone they wanted a quieter life. Sure. Ava never saw a real apology, and I never got my money back for that restaurant dinner. But we got something better. Clarity. Peace. Ava got a future built with her own two hands, and they can't take that from her. So yeah, that's how my daughter's first heartbreak turned into her first headline. How a ruined birthday turned into a full course rebirth, and how I stopped funding people who thought they could buy silence with guilt. I chose my daughter and I'd do it again tomorrow. But tell me, did I go too far or just far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.